Hello and welcome to our Conscious Aging series, which is almost to the end. It is season 5, and today we have a panel discussion. And it's not really about aging necessarily. We had met in the Conscious Living, Conscious Dying series with Barbara Quick, with Marianne West, with Hannah Hündorf. All of them are here today, and also with Jane Rogers, who couldn't come today. And then we decided we want to come together again. Then it was about our participation at the death of a loved one, and we shared how it was, what we did and how that experience was. But this time we want to talk about about us. How do we handle challenges? And it's not only about somebody dying, it's also all sorts of other challenges. And you will hear some at least by Barbara, I guess, and maybe by other people too. But I remember I haven't introduced myself. I'm Heidi from thewisdomfactory.net, and I'm in Italy. And my challenge last year was the death of Mark, and that's why we did the Conscious Dying series. And now I continue with his work. He was the one interested in conscious aging. And that's what I do just now. We will have 2 other sessions, and then we go back into conversations that matter. But now we start. And I would invite you all who are here. Oh, I still have to say, with Jane Rogers, I did a recording, and it's posted also on the website, thewisdomfactory.net. And then there is our panel discussion in Conscious Aging series, and you can find it out there. And I invite you to introduce yourself. Who wants to go first? Let's unmute Barbara first.
Hi, Heidi, and everybody. Yeah, life has been rather challenging. November 8th was the campfire in the Paradise Ridge area and across the canyon from us. And I lost my daughter and I lost our home and everything we owned. And I had just a few little things that I carried out because I thought for a while she was up the hill with my car, couldn't get to me. Thought for a while I was going to have to hitchhike to get out of town, and a fire truck pulled in. I was just going down to my neighbor's house to see if maybe his trucks were there, and I was going to ask him if he could drive me down to Chico. And before I got there, big fire truck pulled in. I feel like it was sent by God. The timing, I mean, I wasn't out walking on the street except right then. And they called down and asked if I needed help, and I told them yes. And so they hopped out and went up and got my few little belongings and helped me get in. And come to find out, the back of the fire truck opens. Got in there, and they helped get my dog in my lap and put my belongings at my knees. And then they closed the door, and I'm looking around, and everybody is going, "Hi there." And the whole back end of the truck was filled with firemen. I didn't realize that till after I got kind of settled in. And they drove me part way, and actually I had 4 rides with different emergency personnel, and finally got down to Chico, where they had the evacuation center. But life has been very different. Basically, my daughter and I are homeless, except we have a roof over our head thanks to a friend of hers. She used to live in Oroville years ago, quite a few years ago, and she had made friends, and we were in the evacuation center 3 days. The third afternoon there, well, he came and picked us up and brought us to his home. He's has a single wide modular, and one of his bedrooms he was using for his pottery. He does pottery and he does rug weaving and beautiful artworks. And so I bought a bed because I thought, well, he cleared out the room for us, and I bought a bed, and my dog didn't like it closed in. She had to be where it was open, so she and I sleep on the couch. He has a fold-out couch, and my daughter uses the bedroom with her dog. But I guess even though my dog, didn't show a lot of signs of trauma, that was one thing that kind of tipped me off that she went through the trauma too. Just everything, life turned upside down. You start all over. There's no rentals. There's no trailer parks with openings. There's just nothing available close around. People are having to go like 100 miles in either direction to find housing or somewhere to hook up with their trailers or whatever, because so many people ended up homeless. A lot of people have moved clear across the country, scattered all over across the country. And so it's been very traumatic. A year before that, I had lost my husband and our big dog 10 days apart. And so that was traumatic. But this is, in some ways, this is almost more traumatic because life as we knew it is just upside down. And so some days you kind of hang on by the fingernails, and other days it's okay. We've had tons of rain where we're staying. Well, he's in the back house and there's a front house, and in between they have big dogs in the front house that are in the yard. To get to the gate, you pass the big dogs. When it rains, it's like a lake, a mud lake, to get to the gate. So we don't travel around much. We don't go out to the car too often.
Oh dear.
So life is very, very different. But we're surviving. We lived through it, and we lost the neighbor whose vehicles were in his driveway. The fireman went up to his door, asked him to leave, and he refused. And he didn't make it. There was 85 or 86 people who didn't make it, and others that did as he did that just refused to leave. I don't think anybody really knew it was going to be as widespread. When I left that day, looking back, when I left that day, I felt like I was going to be coming back. I had the hope that I was coming back. And it just didn't work out. Our home burned down, just ash and rubble now. But, we're kind of waiting for paradise to come back to life. Don't know how long that's going to take, is the scary part and kind of agonizing part, because we just don't know. Yeah. So, but we'd like to live there again. It was a nice small town. We liked the people. You had that just nice, pleasant small town feel, and people talk to each other in the market, and very different from a big city. Excuse me. The weather is not helping me. So that's about all I can think of right now.
Thank you, Barbara. And this is certainly a big, big, big life challenge. And we cannot say one is worse and one is better, but still, I mean, everything upside down. When you lose your husband, and in your case, it was a sort of relief for him, no, because he was very ill. So you might have been, I can understand, but now, and you were in your own house and did everything all right, and now, oh wow. Anyway, we will come back to you and ask you how you keep smiling so nicely. And in the meantime, I want to ask either Marianne or Hannah how life went on for them and how they deal with the challenges they definitely have. And don't think you have now to tell a story like horrible, like Barbara. Every challenge is a challenge.
Okay, I go, since I see Hannah hasn't unmuted herself yet. So I'm Marianne West, and I live in San Diego, California. I'm also Heidi's sister. And we both live in different parts of the world. So just moving from one country to another could be considered a challenge. I think I certainly had several challenges, or whatever you want to call it, from getting divorced and kind of losing a house, not to fire but to divorce. I worked very hard for, to having cancer, to having been in situations where money was really tight and things were hard that way. But I think the main part to kind of move on for me is to always put it into perspective, and having, at least right now in my life, but even before, having traveled a lot and encountered different people in different circumstances, I just look at what I actually have and apply some gratefulness principle, said kind of what you're looking at, it becomes reality. And I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, there are certainly times of, tears, or just feeling really bad, or, but then also being able to sit back and take a deep breath and go, okay, everybody is alive at this point, and I'm looking more at my children. So for me, as a mother, I feel, to me, the biggest nightmare would be a loss of a child. And I have a lot of friends which have lost children and are still moving on. So, it's kind of like finding the thing which brings you sanity, where you can say, yes, maybe money is really tight, but I have a roof over my head. And there are a lot of people which don't, or it just, I think that's kind of the technique to I'm applying to myself to. And I know, like you said, you can't compare, and everybody's, downtime is very real. But I also feel if you put it into perspective and just become really aware that there are many places in the world where people don't have even water to drink, and not even here in the United States, which is an extremely rich country. There in my town, which is San Diego, Southern California, where everybody thinks, it's so rich and beautiful, 1 out of 5 kids lives in food insecurity. So they might eat every day, but they don't know where the next meal is coming from. And that's kind of mind-blowing, said, yeah, like so many realities where you can say, wow, I'm doing so much better. And I think I have this example of a friend I met when she was pregnant with her second child, and she lost her child in childbirth. And then 4 months later, her first daughter was diagnosed with leukemia, and she eventually also died. And during that time, we had like groups where we kind of, like a self-awareness, self-help study group type of a thing. And one of the things I will never forget, she was saying, and she was practicing gratitude. And I think that's maybe when I started to write gratitude journals and stuff like that. But she was saying, I am breathing today. I'm grateful that I can breathe. And I'm grateful that I haven't lost my mind. Because at one point in her life, she had mental issues and was, even hospitalized. And she took such traumatic circumstances and turned it into a strength. And I always look back at that and go, okay, right now things might look really bad. And I feel whatever, whatever we feel. Sometimes we don't even know why we feel bad or why we feel sad or whatever. And then it's stepping into that consciousness of going, okay, things really are good. Let's look at that and work on that. So I'm muting myself again.
Yeah, thank you. And there is Lowell Ann in the audience, and she says to you, Barbara, I guess you will learn a lot about yourself in this experience. And that's a little bit what Marianne said just now. And then she says about you, Marianne, you are so right. Hard to imagine how people are coping in Mozambique. No food, water, shelter. Yeah, I think we are quite a bit spoiled, because we are already angry when the internet is not working. Hannah, up to you.
Yeah, so I'm Hannah. I'm in northern Germany since a week. I've just come back from 2 months in Nepal. And I was just thinking, I was listening to Barbara and also wondering how you managed. I was already amazed in our last conversation by your smiling, calm attitude. It's just such a wonderful feeling being with you, being in a conversation with you. And also I remember that time thinking, oh wow, how romantic, she lives in paradise. And now paradise is burned up. I can't believe it. And you've lost everything except a little bundle of possessions. And you sit there smiling, it's, yeah. So I really don't know what to say. I was thinking my life has really been quite free of major challenges. In fact, mostly the challenges I had were self-imposed, voluntary challenges to strengthen my resilience. And I'm just trying to think why. Whether it's a kind of life attitude that started quite early, that I was feeling kind of, even as a child or as a teenager, I was feeling kind of guilty of being so privileged. I was I had a good healthy family, loving parents, 2 bigger sisters that bullied me a bit, but also they really, everybody in the family really did a lot to give me a good education, and was in a very beautiful countryside, and teacher's family, quite privileged. I mean, we weren't rich, but we had enough to eat. There was we weren't cold because of poverty. And in fact, being too rich, I see now, if you have too many material possessions and not a secure emotional background, then it's not really a privilege. So already when I was in school, in a way, my path was laid out to become a teacher or some other academic profession, to have a good salary and everything. And then I didn't want that. And I decided against getting an academic education. And I joined the alternative movement in the early 80s. And even before that, a year before my final exams in school, my parents got divorced. And in fact, first I left home. My sisters were already out studying, and I left home a year early. I moved out into a very, very tiny flat with a friend, and asked for way below the lowest income, and because I wanted to learn to live on little money, because I had decided I wanted to be free and not spend years getting an education to get a good job, and then maybe spend 30, 40 years working for a living. And it seemed so meaningless to me. This was when I was about 14, 15. I was thinking, well, there must be more to life than that. There must be more of a purpose to life. So that's when I decided, okay, if I'm not getting an academic education, I have to learn to live on little money. So I did that, and I feel until now having learned to live on very little money is and cherishing valuing other things more than material possessions is really the greatest richness you can have, the greatest wealth you can have. And I'm nowhere near as worried about the financial crisis coming up, because I'm not going to have a pension anyway. And I've somehow always had enough to eat. I've always lived a very free life. Yeah, so then what I did after I finished school, I ended up moving to Scotland, to a Tibetan Buddhist community, where I learned about Buddhism. I met my Tibetan teacher, Akong Rinpoche, and I learned to find a wider purpose in life, which is not just caring for yourself, I decided against having a family again, because I felt, well, there's so many people that need help. There's so many children out there. I don't have to actually have my own children, because I can. There's so many people who need care, and I didn't have that urge. So this is really what I spend most of my adult life learning about Buddhism, learning meditation, learning to live, again, very, very simple life. In those days in Sunnyling in Scotland, we lived very, very simply, nobody was earning. We were all just living there and living, getting food, getting a roof over our head, sharing rooms, and working a lot without anybody getting paid. So that was also something that was maybe a self-imposed challenge, or was the way of life I wanted to have. I wanted to live, to build a kind of strength that I now have, and I don't regret it. Yeah, so yeah, and again now I've just been 2 months in Nepal, and my husband and I decided to just not work.
We don't hear you.
Can
you hear her, the others?
I can hear her, yes.
Okay.
It's only me again that I cannot hear her. That's so weird. Anyway, you continue to talk. I go out and come in again. It should not stop. I hope so, at least. Okay.
Well, if that's the worst challenge we're facing, is that the internet is stopping, then we're doing okay. Yeah. So again, we spent 2 months traveling in Nepal, and also we spent time in India before.